Daf is Daf Chaf Hey 25. We're going to pick up at the second word on the Daf on the top line, but we'll just quickly review what was going on here. So the the Mishnah was talking about the Yossi ben Meshulam, who talked about the fact that you could essentially end up taking off some of the hair or the fleece, I guess, of the animal. He talks about it in two instances. One is when you're trying to shecht it and therefore setting up or exposing the area that the knife is going to cut. You might come to take off some of the hair, or if we're talking about if there's a need to see a mum, to see whether the animal is, and this is important particularly by Bechor, because in many instances, well, first there's ramifications if there gets a mum, because then it goes to the Bechor instead of being offered, and also in certain instances, as we've learned many times, you have to wait for it to get a mum. So it's important to check that. So it says also that you can pluck out some of the hairs in order to see if there's a mum. That was Rav Yossi ben Meshulam's halacha, and what the Gemara was trying to figure out was this halacha, this is what we talked about yesterday, was this halacha a halacha in Bechor, which has to do with the question of if you're plucking the, I think that's the right word, if you're plucking the feathers or the hair, whether that is a problem of giza. Because you could say that giza is shearing, which would be with some kind of tool or an implement, and it does not include if you're picking it with your hand or in the abnormal fashion. So therefore, it could be that the halacha of the Mishnah is one of specific to Bechor, whether tolesh, whether plucking is an element of giza, which is forbidden by the Torah. That's one option. Or the other option the Gemara was addressing was perhaps that Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam's halacha is talking about something that has application by Bechor, but also has broader application, which is the question of davar she'eino miskaven. That if you do something that your action causes something that you're not allowed to do, but it wasn't your intention to do it. So the example in our Mishnah would be that if you're taking the knife or you're clearing a space for the knife, we'll see a little bit about that. But if you're clearing the space for the knife so that you could cut the animal to do shechita properly, but in the process of so doing, you're going to take off some of the hair. So you would say that since that's something that you didn't intend, it was a davar she'eino miskaven, so then therefore is mutter. If that is the basis of Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam's halacha, then that has application beyond this particular instance. It has applications of many things, but particularly it would relate to Yom Tov. So the question is, when you're shechting on Yom Tov, you're allowed to do shechita because it's for ochel nefesh, for food. And the question is that if it's a davar she'eino miskaven, then you would say that just like by clearing a space for the knife is a davar she'eino miskaven, that so too when you cut off some of the hair of the animal, when you're setting it up for shechita on Yom Tov, then it's also davar she'eino miskaven. So if we go like the first version, the halacha we're learning in our Mishnah is the Bechor halacha and doesn't teach us anything about davar she'eino miskaven and doesn't teach us anything about Yom Tov. Versus if it's the latter choice, then it teaches us something about Bechor, which is that you can pluck the hair because it's not what you intend to do, and also on Yom Tov you would be able to do it. So this was the Gemara's question. The Gemara brought an interesting story that they asked Rav Huna. He told them first go check whether Rav paskin a certain way. He told him to go ask Rav Chananel. They asked him, and he said, "Okay, then I'll tell you that in fact it's the latter choice. It's the it is the davar she'eino miskaven. That's the basis for Rav Yossi ben Meshulam's halacha." And so it teaches you that not only is this a halacha in Bechor, but it's also a more general halacha that he paskins davar she'eino miskaven is mutter. Now we've encountered it many times in the past, but we're going to deal with it again now. This is actually, if that is Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam's point, he's paskening in a machlokas, because we know that davar she'eino miskaven is itself a machlokas. Rav Yehuda is of the opinion that davar she'eino miskaven is asur, that even though you didn't intend to do it, if you're doing something wrong, it's asur. And Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion davar she'eino miskaven is mutter. So if Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam's halacha is coming to tell you davar she'eino miskaven is mutter, and that's why you're able to take off some of the hair, so he's paskening like Rabbi Shimon. Okay, but then we said at the bottom, last line, Itmar Nami, it was also said, Amr Rav Chananya ben Shomya Mishmei de Rav. So he's saying in the name of Rav, that's going to be important, Kinegdo b'Yom Tif mutter, that it's not only a halacha in Bechor, but it's a halacha of davar she'eino miskaven, and therefore it has applicability beyond Bechor to also have to also be relevant to the question of Yom Tov when you're doing shechita, that you can because it's inadvertent, you can remove some of the hair without being over on the Isser Shabbos and Yom Tov. So in one case we're talking about the Isser Bechor of Loisagos Bechor Tzonecha, that you shouldn't do Giza. In the case of Yom Tov, we're dealing with the halachas of that you can't pull out the hair on Yom Tov. Okay, so now we're going to pick up. So we have Rav is saying that Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam's halacha is one of the way we're understanding it now of davar she'eino miskaven is mutter, and we know that Rav paskins like Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam because that's how we started the Gemara yesterday. That Amar Rav halacha Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam. So it would seem therefore that Rav is telling us that davar she'eino miskaven is mutter. So ask the Gemara, top line, Umi Amar Rav hachi. Did Rav really say that Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam's halacha is davar she'eino miskaven and it carries over to Yom Tov? V'ha'amar Reb Chia bar Ashi mishmei de Rav. But Reb Chia bar Ashi says in the name of Rav, Mesuchriya denizaisa asur lahaduke b'yom tova. So we say as follows, that the halacha is dealing with there is that Mesuchriya denizaisa, Rashi says that you have the braza shel chavis, you have the spigot. When they used to have a barrel, they would stick in a spigot, and that's what they would how they would extract whatever was inside it. Shekarchen svivoseh na'oris umatlanias kadesha nistam hanekev. That they would fold up and stuff into it, around it, and into it they would fold. Naoris is the Shita says Naoris shel pishtan. These are pieces of flax. And matlanias are like towels or rags. In order, that's how they used to. In other words, they would stick in a spigot. That's how they would block the spigot. You would stick in this cloth, and then you would pull it out when you wanted to drink. So we're saying that Reb Chia bar Ashi says in the name of Rav that you're not allowed to stick that in on Yom Tov. Why? Because what the mechanism by which you're creating that stoppage is you're making the cloth very tight. But in the process of doing that, by making it tight and squeezing it in, you're going to cause it to squeeze out liquid. And we know that schita, squeezing out, is asur on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So he's paskening that you cannot stop up this spigot with the cloth. So what's the relevance of that? That why would you not say clearly when he shoves this into the spigot and it squeezes out, he's not intending to squeeze out wine or beer or whatever is there that's inside it. He's intending just to stop the flow. So that should be davar she'eino miskaven. And if you say davar she'eino miskaven is mutter, you should be allowed to put that in on Yom Tov. And yet we're paskening like in the name of Rav that you're not allowed to do it. So you see that davar she'eino miskaven is asur. So the Gemara says the answer behahi, in that case, it's not a davar she'eino. That's not a regular case of davar she'eino miskaven, and we've encountered this concept many times before. I feel Rabbi Shimon moda. Even Rabbi Shimon agrees in that case that you're not allowed. Even though Rabbi Shimon, who holds davar she'eino miskaven is mutter, holds that you're not allowed to shove in this cloth to block up the flow. Why? The Abai and Rava, the Amri Tavaya, because both Abai and Rava have said moda Rabbi Shimon b'sekreisha v'lo yomos. The Rabbi Shimon agrees in a case of psekreisha v'lo yomos. The psekreisha v'lo yomos we've talked about many times is talking about they used to evidently in those days they didn't have good sports equipment. So they would give the kids the head of a chicken to play with. So they would cut off the head of the chicken so the kids could play with it. So the issue is, you say the problem with that is even though he's not miskaving to kill the animal, you're not supposed to kill an animal on Shabbos, but in order to, you could say davar she'eino miskavin, so it should be mutter. We say no. Even in that case, Rabbi Shimon agrees that it's asur because you're for sure causing an isser. If you're for sure causing an isser, you can't say it's a davar she'eino miskavin, or even if it's a davar she'eino miskavin, it's not mutter. So in this case, when you're squeezing that cloth into the mouth of the spigot, you're surely causing schita. And therefore, even Reb Shimon, who holds davar she'eino miskaven is mutter, would agree in this case it's asur. So it's no question on Rav. If we're saying Rav holds davar she'eino miskaven is mutter, it's no question from this case of stopping up the spigot. Now the Gemara is going to ask a much more direct question on whether Rav holds davar she'eino miskaven is mutter. Wait a second. Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi Amar Rav. Rav Chia bar Ashi said in the name of Rav, halacha Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda in the machlokas davar she'eino miskaven, and Rabbi Yehuda is the one who holds davar she'eino miskaven is asur. Rav Chanan bar Ashi, Rav Chanan bar Ami, Amar Shmuel, halacha Reb Shimon. So you see that Shmuel paskins like Reb Shimon, and Rav paskins like Reb Yehuda. So you see that Rav paskins davar she'ein miskaven is aser, and we just finished saying that Rav seems to say it's mutter. Rav Chia bar Ravin masni below Gavri. Rav Chia bar Ravin learned the same attribution that Rav holds like Reb Yehuda and Shmuel holds like Reb Shimon, except that he didn't have anyone saying it. It wasn't Rav Chia bar Ashi or Rav Chanan bar Ami saying it, but rather Rav Amar halacha Reb Yehuda. Rav says halacha follows Reb Yehuda that davar she'ein miskaven is aser. Shmuel Amar halacha Reb Shimon, and Shmuel says halacha like Reb Shimon that davar she'ein miskaven is mutter. So now we have a problem because Rav said you could carry over Rabbi Yossi ben Amashulam's halacha from Bechor to Yom Tov, which would mean he's paskening davar she'ein miskaven is mutter, but we've seen expressly that Rav paskens like Rabbi Yehuda davar she'ein miskaven is aser. So says the Gemara, Elo la'olam, rather we're going to have to say as follows. Sava Rav, in fact Rav says, just like was quoted in his name, davar she'ein miskaven is aser. So then the question is, what's the basis of our Mishnah? Because our Mishnah said that you could, if you're saying davar she'ein miskaven is aser, so you can't say that the reason you're allowed to pluck the feathers. Okay, there's a green Lexus with lights on. If someone left it there, they can shut their lights. Okay, that's the note here. Okay, not in the Gemara. Okay. So we say really Rav holds davar she'ein miskaven is aser. So then why is it mutter in our Mishnah to end up plucking up some of the hairs? Why not say it's an iser in Giza? Because if davar she'ein miskaven is aser, but rather the tolesh alav hainu gozes. So he says that so rather our Mishnah is coming to tell us that plucking, taking out hair by hand is not within the iser of losagas b'char tzonecha. So therefore, it's not a problem. Now, we were learning, so now what happened is, Rav said that the halacha of Rav Yossi ben Amashulam carries over to Yom Tov. So we assumed that had to be davar she'ein miskaven. Now we're saying, no, davar she'ein miskaven is aser. So our Mishnah is not talking about davar she'ein miskaven, it's talking about whether Talisha is included in Geziza, whether plucking is included in shearing, and we're saying it's not, and that's why you're allowed to do it in an animal. So what's the carryover to Yom Tif? We're going to say, Ubi Yom Tif, Hainu Taima Deshari. Yom Tif, it has a similar reason for being permitted, but not the exact same, is the Havale Oker Davar Migidulo Kal Achar Yad. Because we said yesterday that we assumed that even if Talisha is not Geziza, on Yom Tif, you wouldn't be able to do Talisha because it would be included in Oker Davar Migidulo, that you're separating something from where it grew, which is either going to be an Isser of Dash or Kotzer. So either because you're like what you do when you cut and you harvest, or because when you're winnowing. But in any event, you're taking something out from where it was. So we're saying, no, that's mutter where it's kalacher yad. Kalacher yad means as if you did it with the back of your hand, meaning you do it in an abnormal fashion. So at least min Torah, that if you do something kalacher yad, it's mutter. So what we're saying is the halacha in a certain sense carries over from Yossi ben Amashulam to Yom Tov also, because in Rabbi Yossi ben Amashulam we're saying that Talisha is permitted because it's not Geziza, it's not the same as shearing, and we're saying that picking off the hair by the animal on Yom Tov is also permitted, not because it's a question of Geziza, but rather because it's just saying that it's not Oker Davar Migidulo because you're doing it in a strange fashion. So when we assume that if you carried over from Bechor to Yom Tov, it would be because you're saying davar she'ein miskaven and it is mutter, and we're saying no, it's a different carryover. It's saying just like it's not Talisha that's aser by Giza because it's done by hand, not by implement. So too on Yom Tif, it's not the type of Talisha that's aser under Yom Tif because it's dealing with kalacher yad. Okay, so we're leaving off that Rav, in fact, holds davar she'ein miskaven is aser, and his carryover to Yom Tiv has to do with the halachas of kalacher yad. So now, the Gemara asks a question as follows. So what we're saying is therefore, according to the way we're explaining Rav now, the chiddush of Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam is no longer have to do with davar she'eino miskaven. It's a special halacha that plucking is not the same as shearing, that talisha is not the same as geziza. So says the Gemara, is that true? V'tolash live hanu gozes. Is it true that when you pluck, that's not considered shearing or cutting? V'hatanya, but we learned in a brayso hatolesh es hakanaf, that if someone plucks or pulls out a feather from the wing of a bird, kotmo, and then what does he do with the feather? He cuts off the top. What can you do with the top of a feather? That's what they make down, or they make whatever it is. They stuff a blanket. They use the top of the top of the feather. So that's why you kotmo, you cut it off. The hamarto, and then what he does is he pulls off the feathers that are coming out of the side. So that's an issue. It's an issue of smoothing, right? So you have someone, he plucked, he cut, and he smoothed it down. So says the Brisa, chayev shalosh chatos. He's chayev for 3 chatos. So if he did this by accident, meaning he didn't mean to be over on Isser Shabbos, but it is what he did. He plucked, he cut, and he smoothed. We say he has to bring 3 carbon chatases. V'amar Rish Lakish says, tolesh, the fact that he plucked out the feather, chayev mishum gozes. He's chayev because that's considered geziza. That's considered shearing. Now we're talking about Hilchos Shabbos geziza, but we're assuming it carries over. Kotem chayev mishum mechatech, that when he cuts, he's chayev mishum mechatech. Mechatech is cutting something to size. So he's picking the feather, the part of the feather that's good for being stuffed into things. So therefore he's doing mechatech. Memaret, when he smooths it out and takes off the feathers on the side, chayev mishum memachek, he's chayev for this isser of memachek, of smoothing it. So what do you see? You see that plucking a feather is considered geziza. So we said that the basis of Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam in our Mishnah was that plucking is not shearing, but here it says that when you pluck, you're over on geziza, you're over on shearing, that you violate the isser against shearing. So the Gemara says, Shani Kanaf Dahainu Orche. He says, why is it that you're chayev in the case of plucking the feather from the wing of the bird? Is because that's the normal way to take feathers off of a bird, is you pull them off. So therefore, if he does it on Shabbos, he's over on the Isser Shabbos of geziza, right? But when he does it in our Mishnah, even that type of plucking is not considered geziza, because how do you normally shear an animal? Either with some kind of with some kind of implement, and therefore, you do it with some kind of implement, and therefore, when you do it by hand, we're going to say that form of plucking is not geziza. So in the Bechor instance, you're doing it out of the ordinary way, so plucking is not shearing. But in the Shabbos instance, where you have a bird and that's the normal way, we're going to say that form of plucking is shearing. So it's not a problem. Okay. So now, says the Gemara, something which is a lot of ways to understand this, but we'll try and we'll take a look at Tosas. The Rav Savar Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam, Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam Savar la Karav. So we're saying, okay, hold on a second. So Rav paskin like Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam. And because we said that Rav said that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam, he even carried it over to Yom Tif. So it must be that Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam also holds like Rav. So Tosa says the Amar davar she'eino miskaven aser, that it must be that Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam holds like Rav that davar she'eino miskaven is aser. Shem hayasover the davar she'eino miskaven mutter minole Rav sheyehei halacha kamoso. Mishum de tolosh lav hainu kigozes dilma kishari Rabbi Yossi mishum davar she'eino miskaven mutter. So the Gemara is saying as follows, that how Tosas is explaining that if in other words, Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam must hold like Rav for Rav to paskin like him, because if he doesn't hold davar she'eino miskaven is aser, then how do you know that Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam's reason is the same as Rav? Maybe Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam's reason is just because he holds that Talisha is not the same as Geziza. So it must be now. Clearly, the premise in Tosas, and it seems to be in the Rishonim, is that Rav wouldn't paskin like Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam and say that Allah is Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam just because the factual circumstance he agrees with. He has to agree with the reason. So we're saying Rav Paskins like Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam, that it must be because Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam holds like Rav that Davar She'eino Miskaven is Aser, because otherwise he would have a different reason to explain the Mishnah. He could just say that Talisha is not Geziza. So the Gemara this is the premise to the Gemara's question. The Gemara is saying, if Rav holds like Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam, Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam must hold like Rav that Davar She'eino Miskaven is Aser. So ask the Gemara, Savar Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam Miskaven Aser, it's true that Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam opinion. That's something you do, and you do it that it's caused while you're not intending for it. It's aser. V'hatanya, but we learned in a brisa as follows: Shtei saros, that if you have two hairs, this is talking by the paraduma. So a paraduma, the red heifer, in order to be a red heifer, it has to have red. And all of its hair has to be red. And if you're going to have any hair, shtei saros, any two hairs that are black or are white in the entire animal, then it's not going to be a valid paraduma. So what happens if you have shtei saros, you have two hairs, ikaran ma'adim, v'roshan mashchir, where their roots are red the way they need to be, but sometimes you see this, a hair that changes colors as you get toward the end. So that's black. So you have the following issue. If you look at the paraduma, you see two black hairs, but really, if you analyze more closely, you see that it's only the tops of them are black. The roots are red. So Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam says, "Gozes b'misparayim," that you can cut them off with a scissor. Ve'eno choshesh. And you don't have to worry. Presumably, you don't have to worry that you're being over on giza on doing the cutting. So we say as follows. So the question is as follows: that you see that because he's not miskaven in other words, he's not doing it in order to shear the animal. He's doing it just in order to get rid of these black tops, which are a problem for paraduma. So he says you don't have to worry. So what do you see? You see that Rav Yossi ben Meshulam holds Davar She'eino Miskaven is mutter, because that must be the reason why you're able to cut off the black tops. Now others understand that the issue with cutting off the black tops is that maybe you're going to come to cut off a little bit more than the black top, and that's a different version of Davar She'eino Miskaven. But in any event, we have a question. It seems that Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam is saying, because your intention isn't to shear, or your intention isn't to shear any part of the red hair, that you're allowed to cut it with the scissors, and that's what you should do. And that's not an isser. So why not say, we see from this that Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam holds Davar She'eino Miskaven is mutter, and we just finished saying that because Rav holds like Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam, Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam must hold like Rav, that Davar She'eino Miskaven is aser. So the Gemara says no. Really, Rav holds Davar She'eino Rav and Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam hold Davar She'eino Miskaven is aser. So if so, why did Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam enable you to cut off these black hairs? We're saying shani para delav bas gizahu. A cow, so a paraduma is obviously a cow. That a cow is not an animal that has an isser of giza, because a cow doesn't have fleece that you shear. It has hair, and you don't generally take the cow hair. So we're saying that it's not in the category of giza, and that's why he permits you to cut off the two black tops, because it's a cow, and a cow doesn't have the halach of giza. So hopefully you guys would know the Gemara's next question. We've encountered this a number of times. V'atanya, we learned in the Brisa, lo savad b'bechar shorecha v'lo sagos b'char tzonecha. The pasuk tells us that you shouldn't. We know that there's two issues that you can't do with something that is kachim, and even after it has a mum, we say you can't work with a bechar you can't work with a bechar, and you can't shear it. But the issue is that what the pasuk says, lo savad b'bechar shorecha, that when you can't work with the bechar that's a shor, right, which would include a cow. Lo sagos, you shouldn't do giza, but bechar tzonecha, when you have a bechar from your sheep, from your flock. So the question is, it seems to be saying ve'enli elo shor ba'avoda v'tzom begiza. It seems to be saying that there's an isser avoda by a cow, and there's an isser of giza by a sheep. But minayin litan es amr shel zeh bezeh v'amr shel zeh bezeh. How do I know that the isser of not working the animal applies also to tzon? And how do I know that the isser of not shearing it applies also to shar. Talmud Lomer, lo savod v'lo sagos. That when you say, lo savod b'char sharecha, v'lo sagos b'char tzanecha, it has a vav that connects them to tell you that the Isser of Avoda and the Isser of Giza are connected to one another. So therefore, just like Avoda applies to a cow, it applies to a sheep, and just like shearing applies to a sheep, so too applies to a cow. So what do you see? You see from that brisa that shearing a cow is still an Isser of Giza. So you tried to say that the reason he could cut off the two black hairs is because Giza doesn't apply to a cow. We see that it does from the pasuk. So Gemara said, okay, I have to come up with a different reason. El shani para the kache bedek habayis he. That, and all of this are things that we've learned. But he says, Kadshe Bedek Habayis, so we know that you have Kadshe Mizbeach and Kadshe Bedek Habayis. If you were, for example, to give an animal that's going to be used for a carbon, that's invested with Kedushas HaGuf, and that's Kedushas HaMizbeach, that's like a much stronger level of Kedusha. Whereas, if you give an animal to Hektish just because you want to give the value to Hektish so that they could use it to, for whatever purposes the Gizbar might have, that the treasurer might have. So there's a distinction between them. So we're saying, when is it that you're not allowed to cut off, that you're not allowed to do Giza, that you're not allowed to cut off an animal? That's only going to be for animals that had Kedushas HaGuf. But an animal that only had Kadshe Bedek Habayis, that only had monetary Kedusha, so then it's not going to apply. And why is that relevant here? Because a paraduma does not have kedusha zaguf. Why? Different reasons are said, but Rashi says the reason here because at the end of the day you never offer it up on the mizbeach. Because what happens with the paraduma? You burn it on Har Zeisim. So while you're, in other words, within sight of Yerushalayim, whatever, we've learned that before. So therefore, it's not kadshe mizbeach, it's only kadshe bedek habayis. So that's why you're able to cut it off, because the isser of shearing only applies to kadshe mizbeach or kedushas haguf, but not to kadshe bedek habayis. The Gemara says, nice try. V'hamar Rabbi Elazar says kadshe bedek habayis asurim begiza v'avoda. So we say, Rabbi Elazar tells you that no, it's not true. Even kadshe bedek habayis, even monetary kedusha, prevents you from doing any shearing or work. So the Gemara says, Midrabanan, that's only Midrabanan, but Midrabanan you're allowed to do it, and therefore we allow him. The Rabbanan weren't gozer in the case of the Paraduma, then they let him cut off those two black tops. Ask the Gemara, hold on a second. The Rabbanan made an Isser. So the fact that it's the Rabbanan, who said that you can now cut it off? So we cut out that word Shani according to the Bach. We cut out the word Ella. Shani para de lo shchicha. That para is different, that it's not shchiach. The way Rashi learns, others learn differently, but the way Rashi learns is that because we know that Chazal are not misakin things by davar shein shchiach, something that's not common. So dealing with the paraduma is obviously not a common occurrence. It was a very rare thing. That's why we talked about how much they would pay. We have the story in Kedushin. You don't want to wake up his father. They paid him all that money. Because a paraduma is not shchiach, so they didn't make the gezerah that we say that midrabanan. They say you can't cut kadshe bedek habayis. We say that's regular kadshe bedek habayis. But a paraduma, because it's not shchiach, Chazal did not make a takana there. So the Gemara says, but wait a second, you have another solution. So why do you have to violate what would be otherwise a Rabbanan? Well, instead of not making their gezerah by this, maybe the Rabbanan should have established a different mechanism. You do this. So the Gemara says, wait, I have a better idea. Why don't you, because it's only kadshe bedek habayis, and kadshe bedek habayis can be redeemed at any time. So why don't you redeem the kadshe bedek habayis, the paraduma? You now have it as it's fully chulin because you've redeemed it. Cut off the two hairs, because obviously cutting off two hairs of a behemas chulin is mutter, and then practice it back to the mizbeach. So why now back not to the mizbeach, but back to the hektish so that they can use it for paraduma? The Gemara says, well, why do you need to do this mechanism that you say Chazal weren't mistaken? Why not do this mechanism? The Gemara says, the mera yakarin. You can't do that because paradumas cost astronomical amounts of money. So maybe they're not going to have the money around to be poded and then they're able to cut off the hair. So instead, we said Chazal weren't misaken the isser of Giza on kadshe bedek habayis as relates to paraduma. ask the Gemara, but wait a second, I'll give you a solution, even if you don't have all the money you need for that. Why don't you rely on Shmuel's halacha? Because Shmuel says halacha as follows: Hektish shava mana shechilu shava pruta mechuro. So we say Shmuel's halacha is: let's say you have something that is worth $100. A mana is $100. So and instead you redeem it with $1, right? Shmuel's halacha is, even though that's the wrong thing, because you're supposed to redeem it for $100, at the end of the day, you redeem the $100 item for $1, it's still mechul. You did the wrong way, but at the end of the day, you cause a chil. So let's say a paraduma costs $1 million, but you could redeem it for $100. You'll cut off the 2 black hairs, and then you'll be makdish it again. So the Gemara says, Eimar Dam Shmuel Shechilulu Lechatchila. I'm sorry, Eimar Dam Shmuel. When does Shmuel say it? Shechilulu, where you went ahead and you redeemed the $100 item for $1. Lechatchila mi Amar. Did he say that you could do it lechatchila? So we've gone through a long thing of trying to prove that we shouldn't have been able to cut off the 2 hairs, even though it's kosher bedek habayis, but we've run out of objections. So therefore, that's answer number 1. Is we were trying to say that Rav Yossi ben Amishlim, how could it be that you say that he agrees with Rav that Davar Shein Miskaven is Aser, but why, if so, why does he allow you to cut off those 2 hairs? The answer that we stuck with is because there is no Isser of cutting off hair, there's no Isser of Giza when you're dealing with Kachet Bedek Habayis. So that's answer number 1. So there's no proof that Reb Yossi ben Amishlim holds Davar Shein Miskaven is mutter, so we've answered the question. The Gemara now gives a second answer, which is different. By Yisema, or else you could say, Rav Savar la Reb Yossi ben Amishlim, Reb Yossi ben Amishlim la Savar la Rav. He says, what was the premise of our whole question? Was, if Rav paskins like Reb Yossi ben Amishlim, then and therefore he's saying that the purpose of the mission is to tell you that plucking is not the same as shearing, and Davar Shein Miskaven is Aser, then clearly Rav Yossi ben Amishlim must hold like Rav also that Davar Shein Miskaven is Aser. Now what the Gemara is answering is saying it's not true. Rav Yossi ben Amishlim can hold Davar Shein Miskaven is mutter, and that would be the reason why he says you could cut off the 2 red hairs. What about the fact that how can Rav paskin like Rav Yossi ben Amishlim if Rav Yossi ben Amishlim's basis is Davar Shein Miskaven is mutter, which Rav doesn't agree with, right? We said that Rav had to, in order for Rav to say that Allah is like Rav Yossi ben Amishlim, it must be because he holds Giza is not the same, that Talisha is not the same as Giza. So the Gemara's answer is it's not perfectly reciprocal. Rav can hold like Rav Yossi ben Amishlim, and Rav Yossi ben Amishlim needs to hold like Rav as relates to the question of is Talisha the same as Giza, he has to hold not. But the fact that Rav Yossi ben Amishlim also happens to be of the opinion that Davar Shein Miskaven is mutter is not a problem. So the question is, how did Rav know? So this is what I don't know if I should deal with it. How did Rav know that Rav Yossi ben Amishlim's basis? Rav Yossi ben Amishlim holds that Giza is that Talisha is not Giza, that plucking is not shearing, and he holds Davar Shein Miskaven is mutter. How do you know which was his basis in this Mishnah? So we say Rav knew that his basis was because Talisha is not Giza. The Rashash explains because there's a Gemara in Chulin that talks by Reishis Hagez, and it seems to say this halacha that Talisha is not Geziza, and so therefore that's the Gemara's second answer, is that Rav knew when he paskin like Rav Yossi ben Amishlim in the Mishnah, it's because he knew that Rav Yossi ben Amishlim was paskening that plucking is not the same as shearing. The fact that separately, as relates to the question of Davar Shein Miskaven, that Rav Yossi ben Amishlim holds its mutter, which is why he paskins you could cut off the 2 hairs of the paraduma, that's not a problem because that wasn't the basis under which he made his psak in our Mishnah Chavdal on the base. Okay, so we've now completed this sugya. The Mishnah said, "V'tolesh es asar u'bevash lo yazizet m'komo." What did we say? We said that when you're making the space for the knife to cut, or using the knife, that if some of the hair gets cut off, that's okay. It's not a problem either because Talisha is not Geziza or because it's Davar Shein Miskaven. But you should leave the hair there. Don't take it off. Leave it there, stuck on the sides where it is, because otherwise people might see you doing it and they're going to think that you're shearing. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Ashi, Amar Reish Lakish, Lo shanu biyad, avo bekeli aser. So he's saying as follows: what's the reason that we say it's mutter? Is because you're doing talisha, you're doing plucking instead of shearing. What is the difference between? Although not all poskim agree with this, but for our purposes, we'll say what's the difference between talisha and geziza? Talisha is where you pluck. Geziza is where you use a keli. So obviously, if what we're saying is the reason you can do it is because it's talisha, not geziza, then obviously you have to stick by the rules of talisha, which is picking it by hand and not picking it by keli. So the Gemara asks the question, but wait a second. If that's true, that our Mishnah is telling you you have to do it by hand in order to be mutter, v'hakatani, we learned in the Mishnah, osam makam b'kofitz, mikan, that you make place to do the shechting with the kofit, with the knife, with the cleaver. So how do you make space with a cleaver? By cutting off the hair. So what do you see? You see that the language in the Mishnah implies that you in fact use a keli, the kofitz in this case, in order to cut off the hair. So how can you say that the exemption to cut the hair is only if you do it by hand? The Gemara says, Tani likofitz. So learn in the Mishnah not that he separates the hair with the kofitz, which would mean he's using a keli that cuts off the hair, but rather he separates the hair in order that the kofitz should be able to cut the animal. I didn't get into this yesterday, but Rashi in the Mishnah is of the opinion, Tosas and others disagree, that the issue is one of chalada. We've talked about the fact that when you do shchita, it can't be hidden. Like, for example, you can't stick the knife underneath something and then cut. You have to do it in a way that it's evident. So Rashi was saying that's the issue here, that you're separating the hair with kofitz in order for the knife, for the cleaver. Why? Because if it would be cutting beneath the surface of the hair, you wouldn't see it, and it would be an issue of chalada, which we learned about in Chulin. So therefore, what it's saying is not that you separate the hair with the knife, but rather separate the hair for the knife, so that you wouldn't have an issue of chalada. Okay, continues the Gemara. Okay, we say v'chein tolish asar liros mum. So this was Rabbi Yossi ben Hamashulam's second halacha, where he said that you can also pluck the hair in order to see the mum. So the Gemara asks, Ibai lahu. I'll ask you, when he says v'chein, so too you can pull out the hair to see a mum. Lechatchila odiyaved. Was this saying lechatchila or is it saying b'diavad? So let's take a look at Rashi, because you need to see Rashi to understand this. Lechatchila kamar, that did he say lechatchila? So in other words, what Rashi is going to tell us is, depending whether he said lechatchila or b'diavad, is which halacha is really telling us. He says v'hai v'chein atolish koi. So he's saying that when it says, and so too you can do it by a mum, it's talking about you can pluck. Just like you could pluck for shchita, you could pluck for mum. The chihechi, the mutter litlosh, the tzarech shchita, that just like you're able to pluck for the shchita, the hapshita lecha, the reisha lechatchila kamar, because that clearly the reisha is telling you that you should do this. So hachinami liros makam amum, that it's coming to tell you that just like you can pluck hair lechatchila and the reisha, so too to see a mum you can do it also. Oh, the eved kamar, or perhaps it was only saying a different halacha, and that halacha is only telling you b'di eved. V'hai v'chein, and so when it said v'chein, and so too this was not going on plucking, because plucking is something you could do lechatchila, but rather what was it going on? Ela yazizenu kai. It was going on this issue that once you've cut something, once you opened up the space for the knife on the neck of the animal and there's some hair, you should leave it there. So saying, so too by a mum, that b'diavad, if you plucked the hair, which you weren't supposed to do, but then leave it there. I'm sorry. So he says, and so too someone who plucked the hair to see the makom amum, you also shouldn't move it from its place. So we're saying as follows. In the Reisha, we learned two halachas. That by shchita you could pluck, and once you pluck, you should leave it there. So we're saying in the Sefer, when it says you could look at a mum, are we saying lechatchila you could pluck a hair in order to check out the mum? Or are we just saying if you went ahead and plucked out a hair, which you shouldn't have done, then don't move it once you've done it? So which halacha, when it says v'chein, so to the applies to the case of checking a mum, is that saying lechatchila you can pluck a hair, or is it saying if you've plucked the hair, you should not move it and you should leave it there? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Tashma, come in here, because we say in a brayso, Tzemer hamasubach ba'ozin, that if you have some fleece or some hair that's tangled in the ear of the animal, and Rashi says, and we're talking ba'ozin hayamum, and there was a mum in the ear, Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam says, Tolsho umaras mumo, you should pluck it and show the mum to the chacham. Shma mina lechatchila. So this tells you that you could do it lechatchila, because you see Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam, the one who said the halacha in our Mishnah, says that you should pluck it and show the mum. The says Shma mina, you're right. So it's coming to tell you that just like in the Reisha lechatchila, you could pluck hair in order to expose the skin for the knife. So too, when you need to show the mum to a chacham, you can pluck the hair lechatchila. Amar of Mari says, Afana tenina. We learned it this way. We look carefully at the language, because it says, "V'kein hatolesh es hasar liros makom mum." So it says, and so too you can be tolesh. You can pluck the hair in order to see the mum. So the Gemara says, "My v'chein." What is it saying? So too. If you're coming to tell me that it's only coming to tell you the avid halacha, that if you've plucked it you shouldn't move it. If you're going to tell me shelo yazizenu es mimkomo, so if you think that the chiddush of the Mishnah is telling you that you shouldn't, once you plucked it wrongly, you shouldn't move it from its place, he says, I don't need you to tell me that in the Mishnah. I would know that from a Kal V'chomer. Why? He says, Hashta umar shochet shchita samuchachas olav lo yezizenu, because he says as follows. By shchita, right? In other words, what's the concern? What's the reason we're saying don't remove it from where it is? Is because someone might see you doing it and they're going to think, oh, you can remove hair from an animal. But let's think about the scenario we're dealing with. Guy removes the hair, and a second later he does shchita, right? So it's pretty clear that why did he do it? Because he was trying to do shchita. So, and yet you're still worried that you should move the hair, but not, because people might think you're allowed to move hair. So then, liros makom mum nibai, is there any question that if you pluck the hair in order to show the mum, right, that you shouldn't move it? Of course you shouldn't move it, because once in other words, let's say you pluck the hair, the chacham looks inside and says, yeah, that's a mum, walks away. You didn't do anything that's evident to an observer that the reason you did it was because of a mum. So if where a second after you pluck it, you check the animal, we still don't move it, then for sure, when all you've done is showed it to a chacham, which is not an evident action, you shouldn't move it. Elav atolesh. So therefore, it must be that it's not coming to tell you shouldn't move it, and the chiddush safe of the Mishnah is coming to tell you that just like by shchita lechatchila you can remove the hair, so too by teshuvim you can remove the hair. Shema mina lechatchila. So you should learn from that, from the language of our Mishnah. The v'chein must have been going on. Must have been going on that you can lechatchila bitolesh, you can pluck in order to show the mum. Shema mina. The Gemara concludes, and yes, indeed, you can learn from there. So we have a straight statement from Rabbi Meshulam. We also have an implication from the v'chein in our Mishnah that when the Mishnah comes to say that you can v'chein, that you could pluck a hair to see a mum, it's saying lechatchila you can do that, and it's not just telling you not to move it afterwards. Says the Mishnah, Sar bechor bal mum shenashar v'henicho b'chalon v'achar kach shachato. So what's the case? We know the halacha is that when you have an animal that's not a bal mum, that you're not allowed to be nana from a period, and you obviously can't shear it. But even when you have a bechor that's a bal mum, you're not allowed to shear it, right? So the question, we've learned that many times. You're not allowed to shear, you're not allowed to work it. We learned it earlier today. So the issue that the Mishnah is dealing with here is the following: that's a bal mum, and which means at this point you're allowed to shecht it. But the question is, what you're allowed to shecht it, but you're not allowed to shear it. What happens with hair that falls off by itself? That if shenasha fell off and nicho b'chalon, he put it to the side, and then later he shechted it, right? So the question is when you have hair that fell off during a period of time, you are not allowed to be gozing the animal, and then, so in other words, the way we're learning now is that you can't, for right now we're learning you can't use it now, but the question is once you shecht it, because just to be clear, when you shecht when you have a bechor that becomes a balmum, and you shecht it, at that point you can shear the hair off. In other words, like another animal, like you take the hair off when you're skinning it, right? So the question is that when you're saying now you shecht it, so the question is what happens with this hair that fell off by itself during a period of time when you were not allowed to be gozes it? So the Mishnah says, Akavya b'mahalal matir. Akavya b'mahalal says, once you shecht the animal, now the hair that had fallen off by itself that you put off to the side, in fact, you can now use it. The Chachamim osrim. And the Chachamim say it's asur. The Gemara is going to explain because, and Rashi explains here, because we're worried that if we allow you to take hair that falls off, you might leave the animal longer without shechting it, because it's already been declared a balmum. You might leave it longer so that it will grow more hair, and then it will fall off, and you'll end up with hair, right? And what's the problem if you don't shecht the bechor balmum? Because we don't want you having a bechor balmum sitting around not shechted, because you might come to shear it or to work with it, and the Chazal didn't want that. So according to the Chachamim, in order to encourage you to shecht it right away, they said they made it that even that once you shecht it doesn't even cover the hair that had fallen off by itself. So therefore you no longer have incentive to have it sit around. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's Rabbi Yehuda's version of the machlokas between Akavi ben Mahal and Chachamim. That the issue is as follows: that when you shecht an animal, can you take the hairs that had fallen off by itself previously? Amar lo Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said to him as follows, and it's a statement that we're not going to understand until we get to Gemara. Lo bazeh hitar kavi ben mahal. That's not the case where kavi ben mahal says it's mutter. Ella sar balmum shenasher v'henichu b'chalon. That if you had hair of a balmum that fell off and you put it aside, va'acher kach meis, and then it died, not got shechted. But Akavi ben Mahal mater. Akavi ben Mahal says it's mutter, but Chacham also and Chacham says asur. Okay, so it seems on the surface that Rabbi Yehuda was saying the focus is between Akavi ben Mahal and the Chachamim is where the hair fell off by itself and then you shechted it. The Akavi ben Mahal says no, could you? The Chachamim say you can't. And Yossi is saying no. Where do they argue? They argue by where the animal died, not where it shechted. And Akavi ben Mahal says you can use it. We're going to see that that doesn't make sense. The Gemara is going to explain it, so we'll explain differently. Continues the Mishnah. Let's say you had a wool that meduldol. We've encountered that term before, but it's like it's hanging off of the bechar. So we say eshenira imagiza mutter, veshenira imagiza aser. So we say as follows: if you have a hair that has been that has fallen off by itself, but it's not evident that it's fallen off. It's kind of mixed in with all the other hair. So then that's mutter. But if the hair, like you see, on this touch edge of another hair and it's clearly out of the piece, you can't do it. Now, as Rashi points out, clearly the end of this Mishnah is a stam halacha, like the opinion of the Chachamim who say asur when you shecht the animal, because here we're talking about a hair that fell off by itself, and it's meduldul, it's just hanging on by the edge, and we're saying that if you see that it's meduldul, it's asur, so that would be like the Chacham. So, in any event, so this is the Mishnah. Says the Gemara. The Gemara is now focused on this thing that Rabbi Yossi said. Rabbi Yossi said that's not where Akavi ben Mahal is mutter, and the Chacham said asur, but rather they said it not where the animal got shechted, but where it died. So ask the Gemara, Mechlal asur. He says, you're telling me that you're saying that if it would be shechted, it seems to be saying that when is a kavi ben mahalo matter the hair that fell off by itself? It's only when it dies, but not when it's shechted. The Gemara said, how could that be? Mechlal asur, you're telling me that if you shecht the animal, the hair that the hair is asur, but if it died, it'll be mutter. Hashta b'meis shari shachatu mibaye. He says it doesn't make any sense that there be a halacha that allows you to use the hair by where the animal died and not where the animal was shechted. Why? Because, as I said before, all the hair becomes mutter, right? So how can it be that animal died by itself, the hair becomes mutter that fell off by itself, after it doesn't make any sense. So the Gemara says, Ella lo bazeh hiter akavya v'chachamim osrim. So the language in the Mishnah was, it is not in this case that Rabbi Akavi ben Mahal was matir, it's in the case where he died. The Gemara, that makes no sense. The Gemara is saying, rather what he said, it's not in this case that Akavi ben Mahal was matir and the Chachamim answered it, because so really the emphasis shifts to the Chachamim, and we're going to say as follows. If you, in other words, according to Rabbi Yossi is saying, if you had the hair fall off by itself and then you shafted the animal, everyone, both the Chachamim and a Kavi ben Mahala would say that's mutter. Ki pligi, when do they argue? B'meis. They argue by where the animal died. So in that case, a Kavi ben Mahala says, even where it died, the hair that fell off by itself previously is mutter, and the Chachamim would say it's asur. Okay, so where are we leaving off? That Rabbi Yehuda's version of the Mishnah is that everyone agrees that where a hair falls off by itself and then the animal dies, you're not allowed to use it. Where do they argue? They argue about where the hair fell off by itself and then shafted it. Rabbi Mahal says yes, you can use it, and Acham say no. Rabbi Yosef have the opinion that no. By shchita, everyone agrees that the hair that fell off prior to the shechita and then shafted it becomes mutter. Where they disagree is if the hair fell off by itself and then the animal died, a Kavi ben Mahal says it's mutter, and some say it's asur. Okay, so Amar Rabasi, Amar Reish Lakish, Rabasi says in the name of Reish Lakish, Machlokes b'shetiru mumcha. So he's saying, when does this halacha apply? He's kind of saying a new halacha, although in this brisa he's also going to explain the premise of the machlokes. He's saying this whatever it is you say of this opinion, we're talking about a case where prior to the hair falling off, a mumcha, an expert, had come and said this animal is a baal mum. And that's implied by the Mishnah, because the Mishnah says Seir Bechor Baal Mum. Then we have a Bechor of a Baal Mum. So he's saying, Reish Lakish is clarifying that all of this applies only when we're dealing with a Baal Mum. But if you were to have an animal that the hair fell off before it was declared a Baal Mum, then you wouldn't be able to do it. That's what Reish Lakish is halacha. Now, Reish Lakish says, okay, that's the case we're arguing about, but what's the underlying premise of the machlokes? The Mar Savar Gazrinan de Ma'asik L'Shahuye, Umar Savar Lo Gazrinan. So he says that that was the basis. The Rabbanan didn't want to let you use this hair that had fallen off by itself because they were worried that if we let you use hair that falls off by itself, you'll leave the animal unshechted for longer, so more hair would fall off, would grow and fall off, and therefore we make a gzeira, and Kavi ben Mahal does not hold that we have a gzeira. So he says, Avolo hitiru mumcha divrei hakol aser. But if we're dealing with a case where the hair fell off before the expert had said that this is a baal mum, in that case, no one, according to Reish Lakish, no one would hold that hair is mutter. So ask the Gemara, Masiv Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes asked as follows. We learn from a brisa. Bali mumin osrin bekolshu. Okay, so I'll just tell you the structure of the Gemara coming up, and then we'll do as follows. That we're gonna bring a statement of the brisa, a machlokes, and initially we're going to think that it is talking about even before the animal became a baal mum. We're going to say no, it's talking after the animal became a baal mum. And then we're going to bring two other cases. We're going to explain the exact same machlokes, but say it has nothing to do with whether it's before or in other words, it has nothing to do with whether it's before or after baal mum. It has nothing to do with hair that fell off by itself. So that's just the structure. So keep track of the machlokes, because we're going to explain it. We're going to explain it initially one way and then two other ways that are totally different. Okay, so we say as follows: that bali mumin osrim bekolshu, bekolshein, that a baal mum becomes usher in any little bit. Reb Yossi Amar Yivukar, that it should be examined. So what are we initially? We're understanding this as follows: that if you have a baal mum animal that falls into, let's say you have one animal falls into 10,000 other regular animals that are not bali mum. Right, so then the question that let's say that are bechor, that a regular bechor is not baal mum bechor. So the issue is that you cannot offer any, in other words, even one baal mum asers you from offering any of the other animals. Why? Because anyone you're going to offer might be a baal mum, and you're not allowed to offer a baal mum. So you might ask, why isn't it batal? So we've learned many times, when you have something that's surely a living animal, but even just any complete unit, it doesn't become batal. So we're saying the animal gets mixed in with others, you can't bring any of them as a bechor. Rabbi Yossi says, Yevukar, check it out. Go find the bechor. So go find the Baal Mum. So the Gemara says Vavinam Ba, and we're trying to figure this out. Ma Yevukar. What does it mean that it should be checked? If you're going to say that what it means is if you have one Baal Mum that jumped into a pen of 10,000 regular Bechoros, that you can't, and Rabbi Yossi is coming and saying, go check which is the Baal Mum. It says, Mechlal the Tanakama Amar Lav. That would imply that the Tanakama does not see that as a valid option. But that's impossible. So the Gemara says as a bitmiya, it can't be that the Chachamim would disagree with that. So if you're understanding Rabbi Yossi to be talking about a case where you go find the Baal Mum, why would I argue? Because at the end of the day, you have 10,001 animals. You start counting. You start looking through them, and then you find the Baal Mum. You say, hey, pull it out. So now you're able to offer up the other 10,000 animals, no problem. And the Gemara is saying you're right, and so therefore it can't be that that's what's going on here. That Rabbi Yossi says look for it, and no, it's insufficient to look for it, because clearly it's sufficient to look for it. So we're going to say, so Amar Reb Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua. So rather, what are they talking about here? I guess that's it. Okay, and so Reb Nachman says, Rabba Baravua, Hacha begizas bechor balmum askinon shenis arvu begizei chulin. So he says, what are we talking about here? You have the giza of you're not dealing with animals that you could go check if it's a Baal Mum. You're dealing with the shearings of a Bechor Baal Mum that became more mixed with shearings of regular animals. And what's the problem? Is that a Bechor Baal Mum, its shearings you're not allowed to use them. So therefore, it's saying the Tanakama is telling you that you're stuck. That in other words, you have a problem because the fleece of a Baal Mum answers even in a little bit. So Uman Tanakama Rabbi Yehuda the Amar Nishchatu Asri Rabbanon, and so therefore this is coming to tell you this must be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda according to the Rabbanon, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbanon and Rabbi Yossi argue by a case where the hair fell off by itself and then it got shechted, right? So what's the case here? Was also where you had the fleece that was taken off of a Baal Mum, right? And then it must have gotten shechted and mixed in with all the others. So when it says that you're stuck, why are you stuck? Because even after it's been shechted, it doesn't free up what fell off or was sheared off before. So that's Rabbi Yehuda's version of the Rabbanon. Rabbi Yossi l'taime, and the Rabbi Yossi who learned the machlokas differently, who learned that everyone agrees that when you shechted the animal, it frees up stuff that was previously removed. So the Amar nishchatu sharu Rabbanon. So he says, and he says, no, since he holds that everyone is of the opinion that once you shechted, hair that had come off before becomes mutter, so then therefore clearly he does not hold that it's a problem. He's saying that the fleece that got mixed in with the other fleece is no problem, because once the Baal Mum got shechted, the fleece became freed up. So, and we say ukatani yavukar, and we learned that Rabbi Yossi says you should check it out. So what's he coming to say we should check it out? Yavukar, lav, let me just see what the girsa here is. So he says, lav yavukar b'mumo lechacham imum kavua shari. So he says, imum kavua imum overhu. Afal gav shelo hitiru mumcha. So he says as follows. So he says, so you see, when it says Yevukar should be checked, was simply saying, check whether it became a Baal Mum, or whether the animal became a Baal Mum. So it's saying as follows: if the animal got sheared, and then it got, it got shechted, and then check whether it became, or check whether it had become a Baal Mum, right? So what do you see? You see that that even though it got sheared before, it's telling you, Yossi's suggestion to you is if you have these this wool that got mixed with other wool and it's causing a problem, sheared, what you should do is check with the chacham to make sure to confirm that it was a Baal Mum. Once it's confirmed that it was a Baal Mum, so then the shechita frees up, right? So what do you see? You see that even though the hair came off before the mumcha said it was a Baal Mum, nonetheless, the Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion that everyone holds that when you shecht it gets freed up. So this is a question on Reish Lakish who said that when they argue is only if the hair got removed once the Chacham had said it is a Balmum, whereas here we're saying that you have hair that was sheared. Then you check whether the Chacham has declared it a Balmum, in which case you're not able to use it because the Shechita clears it up. So that seems to be a question on Reish Lakish that it doesn't need to be where the Chacham checked it before the hair got removed. So the Gemara says, no, Amar Rava, lo yevukar ihitiru mumcha in ilo lo. It's not, when it says yevukar, you should check. It's not checking that you should go have the mumcha now look at it. I'm sorry. Amar Rava, lo yevukar lo. Amar Rava says lo. Yevukar, when it says you check, ihitiru mumcha in the ilo lo. So rather, it's not telling you, go get the mumcha now when we already have a problem and the hair's already been removed. It's saying, go check whether the mumcha has declared the mumcha before the hair got sheared, in which case it would be freed up by shechita. But in fact, if you check and the mumcha had not declared it to be a balmum before the hair got sheared, then in fact, Yossi would agree that you can't use the shearings because it doesn't get freed up when the hair was removed before a mumcha checked it. Okay, so we asked we thought that this brisa was a kasha on Reish Lakish, and now we're saying no, it isn't because it's consistent with Reish Lakish. But now, Kisalek Ravin Amr L'Shmaita Kamed Rabbi Yirmiyah. Ravin went up from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, and he said this conversation in front of Rabbi Yirmiyah, this halacha that Rabbi Nachman had said that it only applies when the chacham sees it because what happened? The reason Rabbi Nachman came and said that we're talking about hair that was mixed with other hair is because we said it can't possibly be that they're arguing about a case where one balmum got mixed with 10,000 regular bechoros, because we said according to both versions you should be able to just go check. The Gemara is going to say, so therefore Rabbi Nachman had to say that it's talking about shearings. When Ravin said this in Yirmiyah, Amar, he said, Bavloi tipchoy, mishum de yasvi ba'ar de chashocha amri shmaita de mechashchon. So he says, these silly Babylonians, they live in a dark country, and therefore they say dark things. So he didn't like it, because he said, you don't need to turn onto what Reb Nachman said. He says, Lo shmielu hadam Reb Chia bar Abba amar Reb Yochanan. Didn't they hear this which Reb Chia bar Abba said in the name of Reb Yochanan? Machlokas b'shebadak v'lo matzah. That the machlokas is where they. You're right. Had they gone and found the balmum, everyone agrees that we would just take out the balmum and the other 10,000 animals become mutter. But what's the scenario we're dealing with here that they're still arguing? They're arguing in a case where you went in, you checked all 10,001 animals, and there wasn't a single balmum there, right? So what are they arguing about there? Arguing about a machlokas that is between Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan, which we learn in Nida and in Psachim, where we say as follows, the Tanan. So it's dealing with the following case. You had 3 piles, I think it was stones, that you had 3 piles, and there was a mace under one of them, right? So you don't know which one. So obviously, you have to treat all 3 as if they're Tumas. We're talking about Tumas Mace, they're Raisa. So what happens though? The Mishnah says, turn over one, so you open door number 1, you check out this first pile of stones. Is there a mace under there? You say no? Okay, fine. So then these stones are mutter because they're not the ones that had the thing. Then you open door number 2 and you check out these stones and also no mace. So you say, okay, these are also mutter. But then what happens? You check number 3 and there's also no mace. So now it gets into a machlokes between Reb Meir and Rabbanan. Shahir Reb Meir Omer, Reb Meir says, Kol davar shahi becheskas tuma la'olam hu b'tumasa asher tizvada hatuma. Reb Meir is of the opinion, he says, hold on, now all 3 become tumah again. Because at the end of the day, if you didn't know where the tumah went, then it has to still be there, and you might not have checked well enough or whatever it is, but they're all tumah. The Chachamim say, Kofer asher magil asela ola b'sula. You just dig down till you get to bedrock or till you get to virgin dirt. I mean, Rashi says because when dirt has never been tilled, it's very solid. So you go there, clearly there's no mace, it becomes mutter. All three of them become mutter, become tar, because there's no mace there. Right? So this is machlokas. So therefore, what we're saying is as follows: that a balmum jumped into 10,000. And we say, what happened? You checked all 10,001. There were none that were a balmum. So Rebbe Meir would say, sorry, can't any of them, because we know a balmum went in there, you didn't find it, tough luck. And the Chachamim would say, sorry, we checked each one, none of them was a balmum, so you could use it. So that was the machlokas, that, in other words, you didn't have to say we're talking not about animals, we're talking about shearings. That was the machlokas that we were brought, that bali mum and usr mikol shehein, that you're saying when one jumps into 10,000, they all become usr, even if you checked all of them, because at the end of the day, no one went in, and you can't find it now, so you're tough luck, all 10,001, you can't shacht as bechar. And Rabbi Yossi says, no, check it out. If you checked all 10,001, you're good to go, and the fact that you didn't find it, too bad. So that's one version of what you could have understood the Brisa, and you didn't need to say that it was talking about shearings. Rabasi Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabasi says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Machlokas kishabadak umatza. That, what are we talking about here? We're talking about one animal jumped to 10,000. You got to animal number 50, and you find a balmum, right? So this is the machlokas. The Rebbe Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, and they're arguing about the same thing that Rebbe and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel argue in the following brisa the Sanya, because we learned Sada sha'avid ba'kaver v'nichnas b'socho tameh. So let's say you had a field, you know that there's a dead body buried in that field somewhere. So the halacha is that if a kohen, let's say, goes in there, or his tahara goes in, and it's tameh right away, because any place you have, maybe that's where the dead body is. Now what happens? Nimsa b'socho kever, that if you find, in other words, you're 10 feet in and you find a kever, you dig it up and you find a kever. So at that point, nichnas b'toch tar. So then anyone who goes into the field anywhere other than that one place where you found a dead body is tahar. Why? Shani Omer hu kever sha'avar hu kever shenimsa b'sha'avad. So in other words, because you're saying that you knew there was a kever lost, the kever that got lost is the one that you found, right? That's Divrei Rabbi. These are the words of Rabbi. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Tibadek kol asada kula. You have to check the entire field. So now we're understanding this brisa to be as follows: that you have one animal jumped in, one balmum jumped in with 10,000 animals. When you're on animal number 50, you find a balmum. So according to Rabbi, you're going to say, this is the balmum who jumped in, and therefore you don't have to check that. Versus Rabbi Yossi is saying, like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, and saying, sorry, you still got to check all 10,001 because maybe that's really balmum. So that's the machlokas that was going on there. Okay, so now we've, at a certain level, concluded the thing. We brought this brisa with Reb Nachman said it's dealing with fleece, and therefore it seemed to say that fleece, even if it gets cut off before the chacham checks it, can be freed up by shechita. We say, no, that's not what I meant. We're only talking if it was after the chacham said it was a balmum. So that was, Reb Nachman had an interpretation, which said even with that interpretation, it doesn't disprove Reish Lakish. But then Reb Yirmiyah said, what are they talking about? You don't have to jump to say it could even be talking about a case where an animal, we're dealing either with the fact where you check out 10,001 and none of them were balmum, say when you check 50 and you found it, you assume this is the one that jumped in and all the rest are mutter. So now the Gemara asks, why did Rabasi say that we're arguing about where you got to number 50? Why wasn't he happy to say you checked all 10,000? So he would say, Bishlam agabe tuma. He says, Amar ba ore v'natla ba achbar v'natla. So he says, he says, I'm not comfortable with that, because I would tell you that even if you checked all 10,001, according to even if you checked all 10,001, that the Chachamim will say, just dig down and you find it. Maybe in this case they would say that all 10,001 are usher until you figure out the balmum, because in the case of Tumah, in the case of Tumah, where you had these piles of stones, I would say, what happened to the dead body? Animals came and took it. But he says here, maybe the Chachamim would say, even according to the Chachamim, who say normally once you've checked all of 3 piles of stones, they're all mutter. They would say 10,001 are not mutter, because at the end of the day, where did the go. At least by Tumah, you could say that an animal took it away. That's why Rav Asi didn't like Rav Chia bar Abba's thing. What would Rav Chia bar Abba say back to Rav Asi? That why the Chachamim would not distinguish between 3 piles of stones and 10,001 animals and none had the mum. Amar mum over have isti. So say that maybe what happened was an animal 10,000 animals. You search all 10,001. Everyone, the Chachamim, we're going to say they're all mutter because we're going to assume that the animal that was a Baal Mum was healed from its Baal Mumness. Rav Chia bar Abba, my time alama Karbasi. So Rav Chia bar Abba, why didn't he like Rav Asi's idea that you check till the 50th? Check anymore. That was a good explanation of the Brisa. Amar Lecha, he would tell you. So he says, why? So he's going now in Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who says that you need to check the whole field, even though you walked 10 feet in and found the dead body. Maybe only there does Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel hold that you need to still check the entire field. Why? Because there's one body there, so people bury bodies any old place. They bury them in a cemetery. One body buried there. Maybe there's been a body buried there, and that you found, and the reason they buried it there was because of other mason there, but you found one of those other masons, so you don't know. There could still be a thing. Once you know that there's a possibility that the field had a mace, you have to check the entire field. But so that would be Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's halacha there. But Elatachim, even the Badkilan, the Kaimi, he says, even the Badkilan, the Kaimi, he says, but in the case of Kachim, once you got to the 50th one, he found Baal Mum, there's no reason to think that there are any other Bali Mum, because it's not common to find Bali Mum. So say, at 50, you stop. But so he would say, so therefore, I can't tell you that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel would say that you have to check all 10,001. Maybe even Rabbi Shimon Gamliel would say you could stop at 50. V'idach, what would Rav Asi say back to Rav Chia bar Abba? He says, Agav de Menagchi Adadi Shchiach Bu Muma. He says it's not so rare that you have mumim because animals pen, they other. Sometimes they call each other mumim. So the fact that you found a Baal Mum in number 50 doesn't prove anything, because maybe it was another Baal Mum. Actually, check all 10,001. So again, this was just clarifying as between Rav Asi and Rav Chia bar Abba why they why Rav Asi and Rav Chia bar Abba have different versions of how they explain this machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi. But either way, these are separate explanations, and you don't have to come onto the Rav Nachman's version where it was talking about sheared fleece that got mixed in rather than animals. They have two scenarios. You could understand that the case is one animal jumped into 10,000. Still the Tanakh and Rav Yossi are going to argue as to whether you need to check further.
Over today. As soon as it stops raining, the rain.